Hey, welcome to our online service. We're glad you've joined us today. The service will be starting in about 5 minutes. I'm Pastor Larry.
And I'm Pastor Stacy.
We're so glad you're here today. We're just going to talk a little bit before the service starts and let you know about some things going on here at Gold Creek. One of the things we're going to talk about is that we're starting some online connect groups. And if you're interested, you can send a message to Jesse at goldcreek.org, or you could go to goldcreek.org/connect. We'll have information there for you to get you signed up.
Absolutely. I know for myself that's been huge. I have a ladies group that happens a couple of Fridays a month, but there is a number of groups that are already available and that will be continuing. So please check it out. I know that this is a time we are all still dying to connect with one another.
Now, are you doing Zoom meetings or how are you getting together?
Oh, we are Zooming everything. In fact, just tomorrow night, we are doing a virtual Zoom supper club.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, that will be fun. I don't totally know what that's going to look like, but yeah. So
speaking of supper, have you been ordering out any food? What kind of places have you gone to?
More so in this last week. We've done Mexican a couple of times. We actually just went to King Charlie's last weekend for some good burgers and fries. Yeah, what about yourself? What are some favorites?
Oh, let's see. We did Lombardi's this week. We did
that's good.
Just lots of things. We're just it seems like we're eating more. I don't know if that's the case, but we even have a food truck that comes into our neighborhood every week. And you can pre-order your food and they'll bring it and you can go pick it up and just keep that 6 feet apart. And,
right.
Yeah, but it's amazing.
Good. We have 6 of us living in our house right now, and most of our kids are adults. Our youngest, again, is 17, and he has helped with cooking as well. So we have really had some good meals at home that have been delicious.
You're fortunate. We just have run out of ideas, and I don't know, it's hard to imagine that we'd be tired, but we're just tired, don't want to cook.
Yes. I do want to acknowledge, I think others have probably noticed as well, that hair salons are not essential. I'm recognizing here that has affected you.
Well, I've tried to get my hair to lay down. It won't lay down anymore, so I'm just going to go with it.
Nice.
And I noticed your roots too. But we won't mention that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So what else has been going on with you, Stacy?
Well, our family, again, we just continue to try to find some new ways to engage with one another. We've been playing some games at home, watching movies, and I don't know, I love new ideas. And one game that our family has started playing is Ticket to Ride. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's a little bit of a strategy game. I think both your kids, 5th grade and 6th grade, they would do fine with it. So I would recommend that one. It's a fun connection one, and it makes you think a little bit more fun than schoolwork.
Well, we've been doing a lot of the schoolwork, and I wouldn't say that's not fun. In fact, we had a church meeting today, and I muted my mic because my wife was yelling at my kids, and the kids were crying, and it was all over schoolwork, and it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, we only have one left in school, and he does need to still be engaged, but he's got he's got 2 feet out the door, really, but I don't have that battle, and I'm so grateful for. I always said I would not be a great homeschool mom because it would be recess all day long.
Yeah, I asked my daughter today when she was so stressed, I said, isn't it recess time? Or maybe lunchtime, something.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, we're right in the middle of this God Can series, and we're asking people to send in their God Can stories. And I know I've had times in my life when God has done just amazing things. God has come through for me. So if you're one of those people and you have a God Can story to share, we want you to send that story in. You can take a video on your phone and send that video to us because we're compiling these stories and we want to get your story out there. You can send that to godcan@goldcreek.org. It's about service time. So turn your TV up, sit back and enjoy.
storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name still, call the sea to still, the raging me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. Whoa. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, we sing again. Jesus, Jesus, darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. That the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, that the shadows can't deny.
Good morning. I'm so glad you guys are here joining us, and hopefully you're enjoying the worship element here. We have a fantastic team. I just want to remind you right now, at the very end of service, we're going to give you an opportunity to take communion together as a family. And so I would love for you guys at this moment, go and grab your elements, grab your bread, your juice. If you don't have grape juice, use water, use any kind of juice. It's okay. It's really a symbolic thing at this point. It's a form of worship. And so whether you have, grape juice or wine, whatever it is, this is from your home. So grab these things. Let's get ready to continue to worship. And at the very end, I will direct you on what we're going to do.
Give life, you are love.
Hi, I'm Jessie.
And I'm Shauna. Welcome to Gold Creek. We are so glad that you're joining us online today. If this is your first time joining us, we'd love for you to fill out our new family form. And this helps us get to know you, and thank you for being here, as well as keeps you in the know about everything Gold Creek. So make sure you fill that out. It's at goldcreek.org, and it's also in the comments section.
Here's our question for you today. We're wondering, how have you connected with your neighbors? Have you done anything fun or creative? I'm going to say that just by being outside and being available, I've had neighbors stop and talk that I haven't had conversations with in a long time. So that's been fun.
And we have a group text going on with some of the houses at the end of our street, and people are checking in with one another. It's been pretty cool. So we want you to share below. How are you connecting with your neighbors in this time?
Hey everybody, welcome to church. I'm so glad all of you could be here with us today. We've got some exciting things happening at Gold Creek Lake Stevens. Now I know some of you may be logging into our service. You've never actually been in our physical location because you found us after all of the shelter-in-place orders. So let me tell you a little bit about what's been going on here at Gold Creek Lake Stevens. Well, you know, we've been meeting in a school. We have been growing. We've had people coming from all over, people new to Christ walking into the doors of a just school that every week gets transformed into a sanctuary. And we get a chance to share with new people the love of Jesus, hope for the future, and hope for the eternal. But beyond that, we're getting a chance to actually build our own campus. That's right. We have a piece of land that we need to close on this year. Drawings are done. Elevations are being done. We have a beautiful campus in the making for us. But along those lines, along with regular church operations and everything it takes, we're going to need everyone to step forward to be in a position to help be a part of building the Gold Creek Lake Stevens building. See, so many of you have been a part of building the church body. You have invited friends. You've taken the time to come to church every Sunday. You're taking the time to be here watching this live stream. And yet, many of you have also stepped up to give financially. And along with, like for me and my family, along with our regular tithing that we do, we're going above and beyond and making additional offering to make this building a reality. Now, why am I so passionate about that? Because I got a chance to come into Gold Creek when we first went to the campus in Mill Creek. And when we went to that campus in Mill Creek, I got to walk into a location that a beautiful place for my kids to play, an amazing place for me to worship, a common area where everyone could feel welcome. But I didn't do that. You see, somebody that came before me showed up, and they wrote the checks, and they swung the hammers, and they took the time to give to me, to give a place that me and my family could worship that would have never existed if those people didn't step forward first. And so here's what we're asking all of you to do, is to put yourself in the position that someone else in the future would have a reason to thank you. A reason to thank you for the fact that perhaps they come to our new campus and they meet Jesus for the very first time and change their life. Couples are going to get married in this building. Families are going to be raised. And much like that founding campus in Mill Creek, we now have pastors elsewhere in the country who have built their own churches, and they came out of the youth program at the Mill Creek campus. You see, decades from now, that's the kind of legacy that we get to have. It's in His glory, but with our actions. So this week, what I'd like you to do is to just pray about where you have the opportunity to give toward the new campus. Now, you could do that both with a direct cash gift, Or if you know you've got money that's going to come in, but it's not here yet, you could pledge that, and feel free to write that on your offering card. Last, you also get the opportunity to use the Semble loan, where you can take money, put it in, earn 5%, and get that money back in 5 years. But that will aggregate toward all of the capital that we need to build this new campus. I look forward to seeing all of you in person again, and I love seeing your names on the live stream when we're all worshiping together.
And I don't know what all God has for me, but I do know that the scripture that says, I can do all things through God who strengthens me is more real to me now than it ever was in my life.
God can do anything. God can do the impossible.
If it was a Chris Can story, it is all those bad things that I told you. It's all the mess that I've made by trying to be, that good person, or trying to make it in this world, But because I've learned that only with God I can, and that I can be happy.
All right, welcome everyone online. And so we are here, God Can Week 2. I'm very excited for today's message because I got to write this message, so hopefully it will be the best message you have ever heard. I want to remind you again to grab your communion elements for the end of service. As soon as I'm done preaching, I'm going to direct you guys to do communions together as a family. And so make sure you grab it quickly as you can during this part right here. So recapping last week, we started God Can, we started stimulating generosity. We talked about what it means to, when God provides, to help other people out. And so if you haven't already, we'll put the generosity link again in our chat box. If you want to be a person that helps donate some of your stimulus check or whatever, you might have some surplus and you want to donate some of that, there's an opportunity to do that. Again, it's not to the church. We're going to connect you directly with someone with needs. Or if you're a person that's tuning in and you have needs and you just need a little bit of help this month, go ahead and fill that out and explain your needs, and we'll try to connect you guys. So today we're going to talk about what is it like when we feel like God's not working, or He's not doing what He's supposed to be doing, right? Like we have this box that we put God in, and we want Him to blow the lid off of the box, and when it doesn't happen according to the way that we thought it should, we get a little disappointed. And I think we all experience this at some point in our lives, and so we're going to look at a story in the Bible where the people of Israel just had God come through in this amazing, amazing way. They just got delivered from the hands of Egypt, from the oppression and the slavery of Egypt. And they've been, wandering for about a month, and now they are wondering, God, what are you doing? And so we're going to kick up in Exodus chapter 16, verse 1, and we're starting here, and it says, the whole community of Israel set out from Elim and journeyed into the wilderness of Sin between Elim and Mount Sinai. Just FYI, this is not the sin that you and I are probably thinking of where you're doing wrong. It was more, it was pronounced Zin, like Zinfandel, and so it's just kind of an interesting a way to put it. Some people were like, oh my goodness, they went to sin. No, it's not like that. And so just throwing that out there. The rest of the verse, then they arrived there on the 15th day of the second month, 1 month after leaving the land of Egypt. If only the Lord, here's their complaint, had killed us back in Egypt, they moaned. They've been wandering for a month. Now, we can kind of relate to this just a little bit, right? Because we've been stuck for a month. Everything has been shut down for a month for us, right? We're in home lockdown. Businesses are shut down. Things that we normally like to do, we don't get to do. And there's so much uncertainty in this time right now. When's it really going to be safe to blank, whatever it is that we want to do? How will this affect my job or my friend's job? How's this going to affect my housing? How's this, and so there's all of these questions, and we're just focused so much in this cloud of questions. We're just wondering, what is God going to do? Now, this was, not too long ago. If you're a parent of little ones, you guys know that eventually there's a day that comes where their teeth start getting loose, their baby teeth. and you have to pull them out, right? So the other ones don't like impact and grow weird, and it's super gross. Some of you guys like doing this. I think it's super gross. I don't know, I hate it. There's a crunching sound, and there's bleeding, and they won't sit still, and it's just, and they're tiny little teeth, and so I hate it. And I remember one of my kids, one of my sons came up to me, Dad, my tooth is loose, and so, my wife wouldn't do it either. She made me do it. I don't know how I got this. We didn't even draw straws or anything. She just assigned it to me, and I said yes for some reason. And so I'm trying to pull this tooth out, and he's crying because, it doesn't feel good to rip out your teeth. And he's crying, and there's blood coming down his face. And at this point, he's been crying so much. Now there's some snot, too. And so, like, every fluid that's possible is coming out of his head at this point. It is absolutely disgusting. And I just want it to be over. And next thing I know, I grabbed his tooth with a napkin, and I just yanked it out, and like it just literally almost fell out. And he's still crying, Dad, why is this happening to me? This hurts, please, Dad, stop. And I'm trying to get him to open his eyes, and he's crying, and there's tears, and I'm like, hey, open your eyes, stop. I've got your tooth right here. It's right here, look. And he kind of, wipes away his tears, and all of a sudden there's a smile, big toothless, bloody smile, right? And he smiled, and he's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And I just wanted to smack the kid. I didn't. But, we get caught up in the pain, right? The blood, the tears, and we just, oh, God, it hurts. Why are we doing this? And God's like, hey, I got you. Don't worry, I've got you. You'll be okay. So then the people of Israel says, there we sat around the pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted. Now they're reliving their glory years. I'm sure we've never done this. But now you have brought us into the wilderness to starve us all to death. Then the Lord said to Moses, this is God's response to their complaint, look, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you, which is just a cool sentence to say. Each day the people can go out and pick as much food as they want, or as much food as they need for that day. And I will test them, and I underline this for you guys, I will test them in this to see whether or not they will follow my instructions. Because on the sixth day, they will gather food, and when they prepare it, there will be twice as much as usual. We'll come back to that in a second. But I underline this because this is important. Whenever God provides for us, there is an element of obedience that we have to take on as our part too. God is saying, I'm going to do something amazing for you, but in order for this to happen, you have to take a few steps as well too. You have to almost trust the process. And I'm going to develop that here in a little second. But then in verse 6 it says, so Moses and Aaron said to the people of Israel, by evening you will realize it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Then Moses added, the Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening and bread to satisfy you in the morning, for he has heard all of your complaints against him. What's our complaint? What's your complaint? What's my complaint? I mean, are you going crazy right now because you're stuck inside? Are you just going nuts? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Maybe this is like the dream vacation for you, or maybe you just cannot stand it, or you see all these commercials and memes and fun things that people are putting on the internet where it's like first day of school, I'm gonna be like, and they're tossing their kids out of the car, throwing their lunches at them. And so, I mean, we complain about those kinds of things. We don't get to go to birthday parties, and we don't get to go to gyms and the movies and shopping, and there's just so many elements of things that we normally get to do that we don't anymore. And so we can complain easily, like, I can't just sit down at a restaurant. Do you have enough toilet paper? I don't know. Hopefully there's more available now. I haven't needed to buy any for a while because I bought a Costco pack right before this all started. But what do you complain about during this time? Well, let me tell you something. There's something that complaint does to us physically that many of us probably don't realize. And here's some of the stuff that I'm going to share with you here. I'm about to get science on you right now, okay? I'm bringing science. It releases cortisol, which is in your brain. It's a chemical in your brain which impairs your immune system, so it makes you more susceptible to being sick. It heightens your cholesterol. It gives you a better chance of developing diabetes. It gives you heart disease, obesity, strokes. That's what complaining does. And not only that, there was a Stanford study that I got to read, and it was really, really interesting study, and there's so much in it, and so I'm just going to give you a couple little nuggets. One of them is that if you complain, what it does is it triggers a trap door in your brain that automatically takes you to complaining again. And not only that, it shrinks an element of your brain, or a piece of your brain called the hypothalamus, which what that means in the layman's terms is it makes you dumber to complain. I'm like, what? So every time you complain, you get a little dumber. Wow. And let's talk about this. Does it really help anything when you complain? I mean, it doesn't fix anything. I mean, if you have bad internet and you're like, oh, I have the worst internet on the planet, Comcast is the worst, Infinity is the worst, Fios, man, they are terrible, and you just complain and you hate this, does that make your internet go faster? It doesn't. Complaining doesn't help you. And so we got to find ways to pull those out of our lives. We got to find ways to not complain as the first response to something. All right, let's keep going. Verse 13, it says, that evening, vast numbers of quail flew in and covered the camp. And the next morning, the area around the camp was wet with dew. And when the dew evaporated, a flaky substance as fine as frost blanketed the ground. And the Israelites were puzzled when they saw it. What is this? They asked each other. They had no idea what it was. And Moses told them, it is the food the Lord has given you to eat. These are the Lord's instructions. Here's the instructions, right? I'm going to bless you, but you got to take some steps. You got to do some work. Each household should gather as much as it needs. Pick up 2 quarts for each person in your tent. So essentially, this flaky substance came out. It's similar to like bran oats and things like that, and it's this flaky, powdery stuff that what they did was they would take this and they would crush it and they would make bread out of it. And so it wasn't that when you hear the manna from heaven kind of thing, that it was literal loaves of bread dropping to us. It was the ingredients to make the bread. God was providing something for you, but again, it's not just wake up, here's your muffin, and here's your chicken wing. You got to do some work. And so God says, I'm going to provide for you, but you've got to also take steps to move forward as well too. And so they were instructed to take 2 quarts of this stuff, 2 quarts of this, they would grind it, and they would make bread out of it, which is really fascinating to me. And so then in the next verse, it says, oh wait, there's no verse, sorry, just kidding. God can, my fault. I got a little ahead of myself. I got really excited about the next verse. God can, even when we lack faith, God will not leave us. He doesn't leave us hanging. Sometimes our faith needs a little silence, because if you're anything like me, you might get a little cocky. And you might get a little arrogant, and then you start getting a little needy, and you start telling God what to do. God, you do this. And so sometimes our faith needs a little silence. And I imagine that the people of Israel were getting a little big for their britches, that this amazing thing just happened, and they're like, who can stop us? And God, give me this, and God, give me that. And so God needed them to wander for a month. And then he did something amazing, and he gave them means to make bread. And then he delivered KFC straight to their door, essentially, right? The bucket of chicken. Can you imagine that? I want you to imagine this with me. I want you to imagine whatever time machine comes up in your brain, whether it's Bill and Ted's phone booth, whether it's a DeLorean, whether it's a hot tub, or whether it's a TARDIS. I don't know what level of nerd you are when it comes to time machines, but pick that one that you imagine in your head, get inside of it, and let's go back to this time together. You and I, let's Wayne's World, doodaloo, doodaloo. We're going to go back through, and we just wake up, and here we are. We're in the camp. We're with the people of Israel. Everyone's hungry. They've been traveling for a month. They've been wandering through the forest, the wilderness, and they're complaining, and everyone's whining, and there's nothing to eat. We're gonna die. Oh God, you should have left us. And they're just freaking out. And God, in every element, in every being, in every existence of who He is, has every right in this moment to just snap His fingers and Thanos smite us. Just disappear from here, because we just can't stop figuring out that it's not about us, right? And so we're complaining, and God says, no, I'm going to do something for you. So He releases quail farms from heaven. Hundreds of thousands of these, we didn't have any quail. We don't just have them running around. And so, imagine crispy quail just fell down and, these flakes that we can grind and make into bread. And so I just ruined our prop, sorry. And so, we have these elements, and it's just every morning there's this, and every night there's this. And God says, make your muffin for your family, eat your quail, be satisfied, maybe some, matzah dipping sauce, I don't know, so good. And you have all of this, and we're here, we're experiencing this, and we're in the middle of seeing all of this, right? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? Just because we don't understand what's happening, it does not mean that God has left us. So then it says the people of Israel did as they were told. Some gathered a lot, some only a little, but when they measured it out, everyone had just enough. And those who gathered had nothing left over, or gathered a lot had nothing left over, and those who gathered only a little had enough. Each family had just what it needed. Then Moses told them, do not keep any of it until morning. Instructions, right? This is from God. But some of them did not listen and kept some of it until morning. But by then it was full of maggots and had a terrible smell, and Moses was very angry with them. What do you secretly hold on to? See, some of the people here didn't fully trust God. Even though God was providing this for them, they didn't fully trust God. They wanted to take some of this into their own hands, just in case God doesn't come through. What do you keep just in case? What part of your life is I'm going to hold on to just this little tiny piece, God, just in case you don't come through? For me, there's a lot of areas, and I've had to work through each of them. Faith, trust, control, I'm sure we've all, can relate to this. But relationships, now there's one that I still have issues with. And what I mean by that is, in my younger adult years, I never feared death. I just didn't. And that probably explains why I took a lot of physical risks with my life that I wouldn't necessarily take today. And it wasn't a gradual overnight, or it wasn't an overnight thing where I just decided I'm not going to take risk. It was it was kind of a gradual thing. I was rappelling and, skydiving and bungee jumping and rock climbing. And then all of a sudden, I got married. And so I did a little less of that because I had a wife. And then I had kids, and of course when you have kids, your wife also says, no, you don't get to do that because you have kids now. And so I had to kind of curve back, and not that I was ever doing anything crazy, but then the funny thing is the fear that I never really had for myself, I started to develop towards my family. I wasn't afraid of me dying. All of a sudden I was afraid that my family, something would happen to them, and something would happen to my wife, and something would happen to my kids, and it started creating this anxiety inside of me. And so whenever people would say you can't hold on to anything, I kept thinking, I don't have anything to hold on to except my family. God, you can't do anything to my family. Everything else you can destroy, but God, you don't get to touch my family. And it may seem like that's the protective head of the household thing to do, and in a way it is, but in my heart it wasn't like that. It was more of, God, you can have everything but this. And I've had to work through that. I've had to work at releasing that death grip that I had on my family, my wife, and my kids. And I've had to work at releasing the grip of this is mine, and letting that go and going, God, they are yours. And in my heart, I've had to work on that release, letting them go, letting God work in their lives in whatever ways that they need to be worked through. And God reminds me, whenever I start doing this, He reminds me, James, do not fear. What is it that you're death gripping in your life? Let's go to verse 22. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much as usual, 4 quarts for each person instead of 2. Then all the leaders of the community came and asked Moses for an explanation. So at least they're learning a little bit, right? And he told them, this is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath day set apart for the Lord. God's modeling rest for us. He instructs Moses to tell them they need to understand that yes, there's work, but there's also a day of rest. There's a day of worship. And so he reminds them that there are important things that they need to focus on as well too. And that is spending time with God and spending time resting. So then in the next verse it says, so bake or boil as much as you want today and set aside what is left for tomorrow. So they put some aside until morning, just as Moses had commanded. And in the morning, the leftover food was wholesome and good, without maggots or odor. Moses said, eat this food, for today is a Sabbath day, dedicated to the Lord, to God. There will be no food on the ground today. See, we believe at our church that God can. I believe that God can. And we're going to close with communion because we just felt like it was an appropriate response considering, God provides this daily bread. And, as we read through the New Testament, Jesus quotes this story, right? Give us today our daily bread. In Matthew 6:11, he says this. But I want to, before we get into that, I want to ask me, how much time do we spend realizing how much God has given us? Do we really appreciate the provisions that He is giving us? Do we appreciate the daily bread? I mean, Jesus said daily bread for a reason. He didn't say, give us today our yearly supply. He said daily. And what that means is every single day we need to be turning to and connecting to God. Do you live each day believing God can? Because if you don't, I encourage you right now, take some time. Spend some time with God. If you're with everyone watching the video and you just need to go outside and take a walk, do it. Spend some time with God. Really wrestle with how much you appreciate what God has done for you. Think of all the things that He has done. Don't think about the negative. Remember, we're not going to complain because it makes you dumber. Think about the positive. What are the things that God has provided for you? And just spend some time reflecting. There's going to be another song that we're gonna go through right here. And during the song, I'm going to encourage you as a family to take communion together. If you're by yourself, take communion by yourself. Spend some time reflecting on how much God loves you and the provision that He is giving you. And take the bread. And there's two elements that Christ gave as an example. And one, again, I ruined this prop. Sorry, it was so nice. One was the bread, and the bread symbolizes Jesus' body, which is broken, right? He was broken on a cross. And He did this with His disciples in the upper room to lead us, to get us to understand that He is here for us, and He did all of this for us, and He endured all of this for us. And so when you take the bread, you're worshiping and remembering that His body was broken. And then after taking the bread, if you have juice, or water or wine or whatever it is that you have, this is a symbol of Jesus' blood. The blood that is poured out that once again atones, once again covers, once again forgives forever, for eternity, the things that we do wrong. And He said, take a drink this as a sign to remember that my blood was poured out for you. And so those are the two elements that I encourage you to do during the song at any point. If you want to do it halfway through the song, at the very end of the song, at the beginning of the song, it's up to you guys. If you're together, and guys, if you're there with your family, men, I would love for you to lead this. If there is not a guy in your house to lead this, then anyone, mom can lead this. If you want to do your oldest kid to lead, you can have a lot of fun with this. And so I encourage you guys as a family to come together, break the bread, drink the wine, the symbolic wine together, and spend some time giving thanks for your daily bread. Let me pray for you, and then we'll get on to the next song. Heavenly Father, I thank You so much for all that You do, all that You provide. Father, I am guilty of not looking at those provisions enough, for taking for granted how much that You truly give me, and for complaining. And so, Father, I ask that You forgive me for that. Help us, God, to be followers that truly believe that You can. Help us to give You all, not holding on to any. And we ask for this in Jesus' name. Amen. thank you again so much for joining us this morning. Hopefully you had a great experience. And I look forward to spending some more time with you guys. Let's go to this next song and have communion together.
resurrection song. This is my hallelujah come. This is why it's to you I run. This is my resurrection song. This is my hallelujah.